Greetings, friends, and welcome to another episode of The Mistake Zone, your weekly dose of our lives and the mistakes within them. My name is Jaren Wade. Joining me, as always, one of my best friends in the whole wide world, Matt Alba. Hey, Matt.
Yo.
How are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Matt, that's great. We're here, also joined by another one of my best friends in the whole wide world, Rakush. Hey, Rakush.
What up, Jaren?
How are you doing?
Feeling good about my life decisions recently, Jaren.
Oh, look at this guy.
Wow, good head on his shoulders over here. Rakush,
What's up?
why are you feeling so good?
So, guys, one of the topics we want to talk about later in the show is the new Dandadan Season 2 movie, the first 3 episodes that got released in theaters.
Yep.
Jaren's been wanting to talk about this for a couple of weeks, and, I had some time on Friday before we recorded to potentially go watch this, and I really wanted to. Guys, I got the ick from going to this movie because that I checked the seating arrangement, and literally not a single ticket was sold for this. And I was starting to have, some doubts about if I wanted to go, because I don't want to be the only person sitting in there. There is, of course, a fan service element to this movie. I'm like this middle-aged dude. I don't want to be the face for this movie for the people that are working there as well. So I was like, I don't know, man. I don't know. I was going to go watch a movie. So then I get there. There's one seat sold for this movie. And guys, I still had the ick. I didn't end up going to watch this movie. I ended up going and watching a different movie instead. Ballerina, which is a new John Wick movie. And 90 minutes later, guys, I absolutely made the right choice. That movie is phenomenal.
Really?
Oh, okay.
It's actually amazing.
Is Ballerina more of a return to, I think, John Wick 1 and 2? Or is it more in the vibes of, 3 and 4?
I do have a follow-up question for you on that one. Because I'm curious what to you was different between 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And I can answer accordingly.
Okay, I mean, I just think that 1 and 2's, fight choreography was a lot more simplistic, and I thought that 3 and 4 was, very gratuitous in terms of, I don't know, jerking itself off. I don't really know how
No,
to
I
explain
kind of
it.
get what you mean, Matt. I do get what you mean. There was something more, I don't want to say pure about John Wick 1 and 2, but there was a level where it's hard for me to say grounded, but for lack of a better term, I'm going to say 1 and 2 felt a lot more grounded than 3 and 4. Granted, I still liked 3 and 4, but I could personally feel like there was a difference just in terms of overall presentation, arguably pacing, and just how the fight choreography was. But again, that's just me.
I see where you guys are going with this. And I think the way I would personally word it is that 1 and 2, the concept was still a little bit fresh. And there was still a certain mystique surrounding kind of this world that they were building, which they expanded upon with 3 and 4. And I feel like naturally when you get to a point where you're kind of expanding and building this world and telling stories about these other folks, things are gonna get a little bit wackier. I still like 3 and 4 because I think at its core, the spirit of the series was still intact. Of course, it tried a lot of ambitious and crazy things. I would say this is somewhere in the middle. Now, chronologically, I believe it is between 1 and 2 or right in between 1. I can't exactly remember. But a lot of the John Wick...
I thought this leads into 3. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Honestly, I cannot remember because...
Okay.
Yeah, I might have to go and rewatch 2 because I thought the stuff that they were referring to from John Wick's storyline was part of the first movie, but that is a while ago now, so I do need to just go and rewatch it. Any excuse to go rewatch it, so honestly, I'll check it out and get back to you guys. But yeah, it definitely slots in within kind of where the first 2 parts are, because 3 and 4 end up going in very crazy places. Honestly, a really well done movie that expands on the world, which is again a little bit of kind of what they were trying to do with 3 and 4. It's this idea that John Wick is okay. So the best way I can describe this next part is that it's a little bit like what Rogue One does with Darth Vader. the Star Wars movies have always been about the Jedis, and then Rogue One comes along, and it's not about the Jedis at all. In fact, it's about who you'd consider the more sort of like common person, just like the person on the street sort of thing. And there's just one sequence that Darth Vader pops up for a couple of minutes, and you see how effortless the entire thing is for him in that movie. And there is a little bit of that with John Wick in this movie, where like he is there in it for sure. That's not a spoiler. Like all the commercials absolutely show John Wick in it. He's absolutely in it, but it's further sort of building on this legend of like the Baba Yaga sort of thing, while at the same time setting up a new story. And I do hope there's future parts for this one as well, and kind of like tying it in nicely, a little bit loosely but nicely, I would say. And then also honestly just doing some crazy things that I personally really enjoy when action movies do as well. The two terms I want to use are kind of spoilery, so I'll say them, and maybe just like I won't get into it beyond that, just maybe for the listeners skip ahead by like 30 seconds or so. But I can now use the term village full of assassins and the second term being flamethrower fight in a sentence, and I think that's honestly just a really fun takeaway from that. Really fun movie, honestly. Like, one of the things John Wick, like that universe, always does well is it never takes itself too seriously. One of the things I've always described about the action choreography in these movies that's very unique to this franchise is that it's action sequences and choreographies are typically more of a dance. Like that, you choreograph it the same way you would with like, a stage play or like ballet or something like that. Whereas here, the timing of it feels almost comedic. Like you're getting hit with punchlines every time there's like a big sequence in a fight. And I think that's what really adds to the very unique nature of this franchise, which is continued here for sure. And they do some really cool stuff. I think the fights are really awesome. I think it enhances the John Wick movies and doesn't really bring about too many confusing timeline things or whatever. So yeah, I honestly really enjoyed it. Felt really good with the decision. I'm still gonna watch Dandadan's like season 2, just in the comfort of my own home, where I'm not going to be judged by strangers and people working in the theaters.
Actually, I have one more question before we move on,
For sure.
Rakush. When you said that, just the way, I guess maybe the tone of Ballerina, how you noted that with every big sequence, there's a punchline. And from the way you're describing it, for the most part, it sticks the landing. Where, what does Ballerina do differently compared to, say, a Marvel quip, in your opinion?
That's an interesting question.
I'm just curious, just because I know we, I don't want to say as a society, but I feel like popular culture's reactions to the Marvel quip, or, that quirky one-liner, is almost a bit of an eye roll now, where I don't want to say it ruined it for everyone else, but I have to admit, when you said that there is a punchline for every sequence, but it's done well, I got a bit of a tummy rumbly of
Fair.
Why is the first thing I automatically think of Marvel now?
So this is not,
You know what I mean?
Yeah, so this is not like a vocal punchline, right? So I guess what I'm trying to say is it's just the way things are choreographed. The last punch, for lack of a better term, a literal punch,
Oh, okay.
right, actually just feels like the timing on that makes you almost like giggle or cackle or something like that, because you're like, that was cool or something along those lines. It's not like a cliched like dialogue at the end of a fight scene or something
Fair.
like that. So I think that's what John Wick does. Like, it's never about the dialogue. And I think with Marvel,
Okay.
it is such a like, it explains the joke to you thing versus like with John Wick, it's just that like you appreciate the things a little bit more subconsciously. And I think that would be kind of like the key difference if I were to describe it in this moment.
Okay. I guess when you put it that way, it's almost adjacent to the Final Destination movies,
Yes.
or at least how I perceive them, where it's not necessarily a vocal punchline, but just the scene itself, just the death choreography at that point, which is pretty cool.
I think
But,
that's a great comparison.
now I'm a bit more excited to see it, where Matt, would you agree? I was trying to think about what makes 1 and 2 so different than 3 and 4. For me personally, I think in Mistake Zone terms, I think the difference is John Wick in 1 and 2 is, when I say more grounded, I mean in a way where John Wick in 1 and 2 I see as a self-contained character,
Hmm.
but the John Wick and how he's presented in 3 and 4, if you told me 3 and 4 John Wick would be in a Fast and Furious movie, especially a modern Fast and Furious movie, I wouldn't blink an
Uh-huh.
eye. But if you told
Yeah.
me 1 and 2 would be, I would be like, that's kind of a bit weird.
I think that's fair.
That's
Mhm.
kind of how I see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I could definitely see 3 and 4 John Wick joining up with our boy Vin Diesel in
Guys,
Hmm.
I was thinking about it. Wasn't what Fast 10 2 supposed to come out like 2
Oh, man.
years ago or something?
No, I think it was this year that was supposed to come out. I think it got delayed though.
Everything's getting delayed. But I feel like every time I walk out of a part 1, whether it be Fast 10 or Spider or the latest Spider-Verse, I'll look online immediately and it would say, "Oh, it's coming out next year." It never does.
Honestly,
Never
the
does.
Spider Verse
Never
one
does.
absolutely annoyed me because I honestly
Yeah.
thought that was a self-contained movie.
Yeah. And just seeing that cliffhanger at the end, good cliffhanger, but I still felt pretty bad.
Mhm.
Where I know Rakush opened the floodgates. I did see Dandadan Evil Eye, which, yes, this is the first 3 episodes in a movie format with a with a director interview at the end, which we stayed for as well. In terms of general thoughts of Dandadan Evil Eye, and I guess season 2, I I don't know about you boys, but when I think of a sequel to an anime, especially kind of a bigger franchise, or at least they're setting up to be a bigger franchise, there's always that worry that the animation quality might take a dip. Where I was pleasantly surprised with how the production still kept up within these first 3 episodes of the next season of Don Da Don. Just still beautiful colors, still pretty decent fight choreography and animation. But I think the one thing that bummed me out is the fact that we didn't get to see OP2. But uh, just overall, the story that they told uh, just picks up right where it left off at the end of season 1. I know when we talked about the season finale, I asked, hey, when is all this going to be resolved? And Rakush, you were quick to say, no, just right away. And it really does get sorted out right away before launching into that arc
Mhm.
proper. And when we did stay for the director interview, we got to kind of see what their at least mindset was when they started to approach season 2, with them feeling more comfortable, where they said that when they approached season 1, it was more so trying to present what was found in the panels, what was found in the original work. Where with season 2, they want to take more, not necessarily liberty, but try to fill in more of what would be in between said panels. Where they also mentioned there would be more horror influences in terms of production, not necessarily horror, but just taking more inspiration from a lot of horror movies, especially Japanese horror, and more music implementation as well, just because they saw how much of a reaction the title sequence really received as well. Where I think all their approach, or at least them talking about how enthusiastic they are about season 2, factored in with the first 3 episodes during Evil Eye. I am really excited to see the rest of the season. But Rakush, I know when I last talked about the Demon Slayer movie,
Mhm.
which was essentially a preview of season 2, I know you said you wanted to just watch this on the comfort of your own home, but just in general, what are your thoughts towards the early preview movie for anime?
I think it's a good way to build up hype if there's an audience for it, but I do think I'm a little bit concerned about just sort of like seeing empty theaters. Right now, I clearly am part of the problem. I don't want to be there just by myself, but I do have some concerns about, like, if you're releasing this, are you releasing this with fanfare, or are you just releasing it for the sake of distribution or releasing it, sort of thing? Which I think, like, you know, G Kids, for example, has been putting out a lot more movies in the theaters. I actually cannot remember if this one is distributed by them as well, but I'm taking
I
a,
believe it
yeah,
is.
I'm assuming based on the director interview at the end and stuff. I appreciate that they're doing that, but I do think it needs to be a little bit balanced because at some point, yeah, like, you know, it is going to come down to just like, is there an audience for this? Or are you just releasing it for the sake of releasing it? I'm honestly like, do limited releases. I think that's fine as well. But for a thing like Dandadan, it warranted it. I, yeah, I think the way the first season kind of went, like, it's probably a good call to release the three together. But also, yeah, I mean, it is just three episodes together, you know, and I do think that kind of plays against it a little bit because at the end of the day, like, you're just watching 60 minutes of an anime that's going to be released in like a couple of weeks.
Fair. And to be honest, when we did see it, we saw it opening weekend, but I was always under the impression that this would be a limited
Mm-hmm.
run, where I was actually surprised that it was still showing a week later. So,
Same.
at least for the theater we were in, it was pretty full. But one guy did walk out where I think, oh, maybe this guy just assumed this would be a proper
Mm.
movie. And when he saw that this was like the first three episodes, maybe just walked out.
Yeah, and I do think like that's part of it, right? Like you have to also educate the audience on what they're watching as well. Like I don't think you can just put something in the theater and assume that you're going to pack a theater up with people who know exactly what this is. Like I until you mentioned it, Jaren, like I actually had no idea that they were doing a theatrical release here. Like I knew there was a theatrical release in general. I just didn't know they were doing it in Canada as well. So like that was a little bit interesting.
Fair. But yeah, I would say Dandadan Evil Eye, check it out. But to be honest, it's going to be here sooner than we expect it to, or sooner than you know it. But yeah, quality is really up there. And honestly, I am excited to hear that they are trying to implement more music integration and more horror influences into season two. And I'm really curious to see what that looks like. And even the comments about trying to fill in more action or more sequences in between the panels that we saw in the manga, how that turns out and how fans of the manga respond to that.
Mhm.
So something to look forward to as well. But real quick, boys, I watched another anime, Korean anime on Netflix. Lost in Starlight is apparently the next big romance anime that has the internet talking. But gang, we gotta stop comparing every romance anime that's released to Your Name. Where, don't get me wrong, I loved Your Name, but I don't know. I feel like it just takes away from anything, especially within this genre coming out. When immediately you're gonna have hyperbole of, oh, just watch the new Netflix anime. It's better than Your Name. Where I don't know. I think every time someone does a comparison to especially something so notable in the genre, it just ends up doing it a disservice to me. But regardless, Lost in Starlight is this romance anime that follows Non Young, who is a scientist or an astronaut scientist, kind of following the footsteps of her mother, who is also an astronaut scientist, who unfortunately lost her life on a expedition to Mars. And it's kind of her dealing with that loss, that grief, but also still trying to forge her own path, trying to pick up where her mother left off, while balancing this relationship with Jay, who is this, electronic repairman who's also kind of battling with the fact that he gave up his dreams to be a musician. So it's this love story that, I don't know, it also has this pseudo futuristic pretty much setting where it's not, completely cyberpunk, it's not completely super futuristic, but at the same time, just the way how they communicate with essentially with AR is also just really cool to see between them. But yeah, in terms of just the character chemistry between Jay and Non Young, I think really pulled it off. Great voice acting. And the one thing that stood out to us when we did watch it was just overall the visuals. Really great colors, really, really good framing. It was just a really nice movie to watch overall. And unlike Your Name, I do think that it does end on a more direct note which, depending on what you want out of your romance anime, this might be a little corny once we get to the end, a little cliche, but at the same time, sometimes you just want something from this genre along that lane. So yeah, check out Lost in Starlight if you're just looking forward or for just pretty good romance anime, good character chemistry, and just some amazing visuals as well. Where I was wondering if this came across any of your timelines or just your circles when you've been kind of just browsing around, gang.
Personally, for me, no, not
Okay.
at all.
Yeah,
Fair.
to be fair, like I don't really have Netflix anymore, so it's a little bit tougher for me to find these.
Okay.
Mainly because I don't want to spend 25 bucks a month on Netflix anymore. It just feels like too much.
Big fair.
Last question for you.
Yes.
Is Your Name the Metroidvania of anime movies?
Maybe romance anime movies, to be fair. Because again, if someone brings up romance anime, everyone immediately brings up Your Name. But if we're talking about anime movies in general, I don't know. I want to say Akira, but at the same time, it's probably some like Ghibli movie if you really want to think about it.
I feel like age-wise, I feel like Akira would more so connect to roguelikes.
Fair.
Where
big
does
fair.
Girl Who Leapt Through Time fit in? What is that genre of video games?
Nobody references it. No one references it. That's
Really?
an indie game.
Dude, I feel like that's a very referred to movie. Like Suzume came out a
Really?
couple of years back, and I felt like that was very much people going like, "Oh yeah, that's another Girl Who Leapt Through Time."
Really, whenever people talked about Suzume, to me, it was compared to Your Name. Like, I'll be
How would
honest.
that be compared to Your Name?
When I heard about Suzume, it was compared to me by what's the one about the sky girl
Isn't
or the
that
sunshine girl?
Wait,
Oh,
Sunshine Girl?
I know what you're talking
I
about.
can't remember. Weathering with you.
Yeah, Weathering with You.
Never heard of that one.
Honestly, when people were talking about Weathering with You, they compared it to Your Name, at least in my circles, where, I'll be honest, Rakush, you're the only one that I've heard talk about
Yeah.
Time Girl, if I had to be
Time Girl.
completely
You
honest.
got the name wrong,
Yeah.
Jaren. Come on.
I've never had somebody reference Girl Who Leapt Through Time to me except for you and Julian.
I feel like, listen, if we had more time this episode, I would push back, but I feel like there's more people who have watched Girl Who Leapt Through Time as well.
I mean, I'm sure that there's a lot of people who watched Girl Who Leapt Through Time, but I don't think that it is defined enough to be a Metroidvania or like that level.
Oh,
of
no, I don't
reference.
think it's Metroidvania. I'm just wondering what kind of genre it would be.
Oh, I mean,
Oh,
hmm.
it would be one I haven't heard of. Sorry, gang.
Dang. See how it is.
But yes, Lost in Starlight, if you want, yeah, you just want something comfy, want something with good visuals, and I'll be back in, I don't know, whenever K-pop Demon Hunters comes out on Netflix,
man.
so expect a report on that.
Yeah.
But Matt, Rakush,
Hmm.
I know last week we went really deep on Summer Games Fest, but there was another festival that happened that week as well, or at least this week, and is concluding. And Matt,
Mm-hmm.
it's that time again for yet another Steam Next Fest kind of review, or at least going through some of the games that we checked out, and that we may or may not want to highlight, or at least what we're looking forward to upon full release. But Matt, again, big slate of games, but how do you want to do this? Do you want to go through the quick hits real first, or do you just want to go into the meat and potatoes?
I don't mind like interchanging them, but I think it's or I don't know, a meteor one first to get into it.
All right, Matt. I know you said a meteor one, but should we just start with the showstopper?
Ooh, okay.
Because-
What do you consider to be the showstopper, Jaren?
Because Matt, of all of all 6 games, sorry, I'm a capital G gamer. Of all 6 games, I think my game of this latest Steam Next Fest was, for me personally, my card is better than your card.
It's a
Where
very good game. It's a very good game.
Matt,
Mhm.
on paper, when I booted this up, I think this is such a charming looking game. Just its visuals, its presentation. I know it might not be everyone's cup of tea, where it might look childish, but I think
Uh
it
huh.
perfectly captures this childlike sense of wonder, where this is trying to present a particular feeling of you being on the playground trying to show off your nifty cards and everyone reacting to that positively because
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um I think it's as someone who does like TCG card games and has a bit of an affinity or nostalgia of playing Yu-Gi-Oh or showing off Digimon cards or Pokemon cards on the playground. There's something a lot more innocent about my card is better than your card that just makes me feel good. It's a good slice of life anime presentation
Mm-hmm.
that I just instantly fell in love with its charm. Just when you're battling all these different kids, just everyone's reactions, even when a card's played against you and you seeing your protagonist just like freak out in wonder. Like it's a
Mm-hmm.
really
Mm-hmm.
positive game to me. And I don't know, just given how it's so easy just to feel a bit bummed out these days, just the sheer positivity from my card is better than your card put a big smile on my face.
Mm-hmm.
But then that smile might have been affected by I was actually surprised at how deep this roguelite card game can be,
Uh-huh.
where this is a card roguelite, and behind all the cute visuals is something that I was honestly trying to wrap my brain around. Where
Mm-hmm.
Matt, what were your initial thoughts of my card is better than your card?
Yeah, I think my initial thought was kind of similar to yours in terms of visuals and I guess vibes of this game, where I'm really into it. It is a very positive feeling game. It's really nice to kind of see these kids just saying like, "Oh wow, awesome," and then they get the stars in their eyes whenever a card is played, and I don't know the kind of concept that hey, you're using like candy to play your cards, and you're kind of just like getting all your cards are made up of removable stickers so you can make new cards out of your old cards. All feels like very good, especially with kind of how they've decided to theme all your usual, I guess, your usual trappings of a card rogue, like where you do
Mhm.
have your shop, but the shops are kind of designed as video game stores or like little like
Flea markets.
mhm. And then you have your random thing where you're just like digging up stickers in the sandbox. And if you want to get rid of your cards, you're going to the recycling center because you got to
Yep.
recycle like a good kid. And you get to trade sticker books with other kids to get more or different stickers depending on what's in your book. And I don't know, I think all the vibes in this are very very good until you meet that dumb kid Amit. And
Hold on.
what's up, Rakush?
Why is the brown kid the dumb kid?
Okay, Jaren, I don't know if you feel this way, but so Amit is, I guess, the first boss that you meet,
Yep.
and his deck is just like tiers above all the other kids you're
Yep.
facing, and it is such a slap in the face when you get to him in terms of how you're supposed to be building your decks. That man, fuck that kid. Oh
Where
man.
it's true, where again I was raving about like these really good vibes. I'm trying to put my cards again, I love customizing my cards. I
Mhm,
love
mhm,
how each sticker has their own abilities and you're trying to think of synergies, but at the same time it's, oh, I have a frog, so I'm going to put the glasses sticker on top of the frog and this looks neat. I don't care if this card doesn't make sense. Where
mhm,
the difficulty, so the premise is I believe you're a new kid coming to town, everyone's cool, but you're trying to be like the best duelist or someone known to be good at this card game that they're playing. And every
mhm,
day
mhm,
you have a set schedule that you can pick where you're battling, refining your deck, customizing cards at the end. And this all leads up to Saturday or the end of the week where you fight the boss kid for that
mhm.
week. And as Matt said, as someone who was dicking around for the rest of the week, once you get to the final exam, it made me realize, well, I don't have any synergies going on. The fact that I went all in on making my cards cute without really balancing how much cost I have or how much card draw it generates or how much mana essentially it generates. And the fact that, again, I'm
Mhm.
just being slapped in the face by this kid whose card synergies go so well together, maybe tune that a bit down. But Matt, were you able
Mhm.
to overcome this mountain of a boy?
Yeah, yo, Jared, honestly, fuck that kid. I beat his ass into the ground with my card deck. The card deck is ridiculously good. I also was able to beat him with a fish deck. Oh man, like I think for what this game is, there is a surprising amount of different types of decks that you can build
Yep.
in this game, and I really like that this game kind of allows you to create tech cards that you
Hmm.
can use against other types of deck, and with the sticker system you can put these like tech pieces onto cards that you would use in other situations anyway, which feels like very, very good.
Where Matt, what do you think of the tug of war kind of life system that the game revolves around?
I think it is I think it fits the theme. I don't really know how I feel about it like in like actual use. Maybe they could have thought of something better, but I think it's like a very fair system. It is crushing though to go from like I don't know 90% your bar to losing,
Yep.
and you hate to see it. You hate to see it.
Where essentially, to describe the battle system real quick, think of a just a rope, I guess. I don't know, like just a meter. And
Hmm.
essentially, to win, let's say you have 20 points and the opponent has 20 points. And essentially, it's whoever's able to play enough cards to generate stars at the end of your turn. Both players play cards that have a star cost on them, and at the end of the turn or the battle phase, all the stars are tallied up, and whoever has the most stars wins the round. And the difference between stars gets added to your, I guess, life gauge or something. And the first one to have set number difference through the battles wins. Where I think it took me a bit to get used to, especially with how especially some of those early games, Matt, I just found the CPU wasn't playing any star cards and they were just playing
Hmm.
tokens that didn't really do anything, which
Hmm.
again doesn't prepare you for the first boss. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, it does seem like a game that can take some big swings. But yeah, Matt, my
Hmm.
card is better than your card. Final question. What was the best card that you thought you created?
I think that my best card that I created was actually it's hard to say the best card because I built I built an infinite deck combo where
Oh,
it kind of just draws itself over and over, and then every time you draw it, it gives you stars, and you can just like ride that until you're at I don't know 200 stars or until you
that's
want to
pretty
stop the
good.
combo.
That's pretty good.
Hmm.
Matt, what
Hmm.
was the best sticker combination you did?
Ooh, I mean, I guess it's part of that card where there's one card that gives you 2 stars when you draw it, and then 2 candy when you discard it, and then there's another card that will give you 2 draws or another sticker that gives you 2 cards when you discard it. So you can just stack them all on one card, and you don't ever actually have to pay a cost.
That's pretty good. Visually, how
Hmm.
did that look? Was it a mess, or did you try to make it look visually pleasing?
I tried to make it look visually pleasing. Like I these were all vehicles, so I tried to I tried to get them in nice lanes, so it looked like it's actual card art. It was really good. It was really good.
All right, fair enough, Matt. Matt, is this
Mhm.
on your radar after Steam Next Fest?
Yeah, for sure. I think that this is probably a game that I am aiming to buy once it releases. I don't know if it actually has a release date yet, though.
Okay, fair enough. But speaking about a demo that, well, Rakush, I know last week we briefly talked about Axe of Blood
Hmm.
after it was showcased on the State of Play presentation, not State of Play, the Summer Games Fest presentation. And Matt, I apologize. I know I talked about this a few weeks ago during the last
Hmm.
Steam Next Fest, but I went back to Axe of Blood just because Matt, I know you mentioned this for some other demos, but Axe of Blood seems to be one that the developers are really taking feedback from, to heart. And I feel like this game, or at least this demo, has gotten a bunch of updates since I initially played it a few weeks ago. And I think at one point during the many updates that the game received, it kind of changed how character customization worked and how you unlock clothes. So when I went to edit my character, he just became this floating head and arms with all the clothes missing. Where I apologize, friends. I immediately went to change it. I should have just kept him like that and see what happens. But Rakush, last week you asked, oh, you saw the guns. Why would anyone use gun, or why would anyone stick to the hand-to-hand combat if guns are in the
Mm-hmm.
game? And um, they are limited in how often they appear, especially in the story mode and even in the arena mode. Let alone each of the guns only has a finite of ammo, so the moment you're done your clip, you just throw it, or yeah, just throw it at your opponent and that you're done with. So
Got
this
it.
game does heavily still rely around hand-to-hand close quarter combat. The combat's, I think it does feel satisfying, especially when you're able to enter that flow state, when you're able to chain counters and attacks between multiple people coming at you. It does look cool, so I really have to give it to them. I think so again, this demo has like I believe 10 achievements, and quite a few of them take place in the arena mode, where there are some when you're playing arena mode for so long, there are some rough patches where enemies you defeat will kind of just linger there sometimes. There were points where enemies just don't despawn, so they're kind of just standing there posing or even T-posing, and you kind of can't interact with them. That I had to kind of get the fights away from them just because I'm not. They would kind of interfere with that flow state I was talking about. But finally, the final hidden achievement of the Axe of Blood demo is to kill 666 people in arena, which took close to an hour and a half. Boys,
Oh,
I recommend people don't go for that achievement because I think I'm good for this game. I think I've gotten enough out of this game going for that achievement. So I'm rooting for the developers. I hope they're able just to kind of clean up the animation, but maybe don't make your players of the demo try to kill like close to 700 people in one run, or because I feel like that goes from giving you a taste of the game to, oh, I've had my fair share, maybe I can put this in the back burner, but who knows when this game will come out. But yeah, Axe of Blood, think it's getting there, but I'm hoping that it will see a bit more polish.
Have the
But
updates been
what's up,
marginal,
Rakush?
or would you say like you've seen some like pretty sizable differences and like good differences between like where it was and where it currently is?
Well, to be fair, I did when I first told Matt about Axe of Blood, I played it on the Steam Deck, and it was kind of rough in the arena, where I think the biggest thing that happened would be someone would be attacking me, but I would be kind of attacking towards the camera, and they would be reacting to what I was doing, but they were behind me. So there was kind of like this disconnect. Like that didn't happen during this update. So I think the devs are still working at it. And again, I'm rooting for them, but might have been burnt out killing all those people in the arena. But yeah, that is Axe of Blood demo available now. Matt, what's another demo that you checked out?
I mean, if you want to keep fighting things, I want to give a quick shout to Morbid Metal. I think that in terms of combat, this is the closest that we're gonna get to ZZZ outside of ZZZ.
Okay, Matt, you have my attention.
This is I guess like a ZZZ combat. Like, I don't really know. I guess like a character action game. It does kind of have that, what do you call it, Devil May Cry style rating system in the top corner where you're
Right.
going from like D to like maybe S. I'll be honest, I never got it that high.
Fair.
But it is kind of just playing with your basic attack. You have two special attacks, an ultimate, and a dodge built in, and it is very much driven around doing perfect dodges, which Jaren, I think you'll be glad to hear, are marked with a flash, so you know when to press the dodge button. And
A game after my heart, Matt.
and plus, you don't get locked into animations because your dodge button is your animation break button, which is
Oh, that's pretty good.
very, very nice. I think the kind of unique concept that they're going into it here with is that you play. First off, this is a roguelike, and you play as up to 4 characters, which you change by hitting your D-pad, and you kind of switch between them that way. I think, like, in terms of gameplay, this is a very solid game. In terms of the systems that they're doing for the roguelike part, I do think it's a little weird because
How so?
the upgrades that kind of just like in most, I guess, roguelike systems now, after you finish a kind of quote unquote level or section, you get a choice of, the upgrades that you want to take. And kind of weirdly, I think the upgrades are either general upgrades, stuff like, oh, if you're below like this amount percent of health, you do more damage. But then very often you'll get ones that are specific to a character. And I'm not sure if I like that system because each of the characters plays pretty differently. And it's very weird that you're getting upgrades for one character out of the 4 in your roster. And while you are meant to kind of switch between them and they all do share one singular life bar, it feels weird to me. Something about it just makes it feel like it's lacking. And
Right.
it makes me hesitant to, do I go all in on one character? Do I try to balance it between all the characters? And I don't know. I didn't have a good, real sense of how I should be building or selecting my perks, I guess is what I mean.
Right.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
don't know. It just feels a little guideless in terms of that.
Okay. Just looking for a bit more structure, Matt. Okay. So I'm guessing this won't steal you away from ZZZ anytime soon.
No, I don't think so. I think the battle or the combat system is like very, very good. It weirdly has a kind of like running and dashing platforming system, which I don't
okay.
really think it needs because you're really just using that to go between levels, and
Right.
it feels very, very good to do, but it's weird that it's there because it doesn't do much itself.
Okay. Oh, that's a shame because I do like me a good traversal sequence or mechanics at hand. But Matt, gotta ask you, what's like the aesthetic to the game? What's the look like?
It is very cyber robotic. It looks like the kind of, I guess, scene you'd get if humanity wiped out and then robots took over, but it's also slightly post-apocalyptic and the robots are, very very sentient. The kind of overall theme of their roguelike is basically that you are doing iterative runs on, I guess, the levels to make the best robot AI,
Right.
I think.
Matt, honestly, I think aesthetically wise, maybe this isn't for me. But is it going to be on your radar, or think you're good after the next fest?
I think it's going to be on my radar. I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to buy in.
Fair enough. Matt, there was a transition I wanted to go from the game you were talking about, but the more you started describing it, it kind of reminded me about another experience during the Steam Next Fest, and it was actually for a game I was really looking forward to, and I'm talking about Starlight Revolver, which is essentially, boys, magical girl anime co-op Hades, where this is a Hades light or Hades like, where you have that isometric view, you're running around doing combat, you go through different floors. After the end of the floor, you pick your upgrade, then you pick which room you want to go into, and then rinse and repeat for, let's say, 27 rounds, and then you fight the final boss at the end. Where, one, this is a co-op game at heart, where I was really surprised that you load into what is essentially a MMO lobby, where you do have this big hub world. You have a lot of people kind of there hanging out, doing the fishing mini games, doing the other mini games, and then you can just go into queue, either queue up solo to do a run, or queue up with 4 other people.
I'll be honest,
and
that sounds like Ragnarok Online too.
It does feel. That's not a game I thought about in a long while, but you're right. That's exactly what this hub world is. The only difference is, I think the overworld hub is too big, and the only interactive points of interest are so far away from one another. There's nothing to do here. And there's a map that you can go up and see where everything is, but there's no waypoints. There's no kind of guide to tell you where to go. And I don't know, it's really boring, especially where the whole thing is, just going to one place to another to do upgrades or to go fishing. Or let's face it, read the chat. And thankfully, still in, this is a demo. Chat's not super toxic yet.
Building on the
Here's
goof,
hoping it stays
are
that
there
way.
people asking BR?
No, there's people being less positive about the game, but hoping that this game gets to a better place, which will kind of inform what I'm about to say, where this is a co-op, Hades roguelite, where I'm not sure if it's just because the game's super early, but the overall combat and movement feels really sluggish. Where Matt, you talked about how a key point of any good combat game is to be able to kind of cancel out of a move, maybe even dodge cancel. Here in Starlight Revolver, when you do an active, you're committing to it. You can't dodge out of it. So, especially towards the later levels, when it gets a lot more hectic, when it gets more bullet, you just have a lot of pink dots coming at you, a lot of enemies dashing into you. It's really hard to keep up with everything, and you have to commit to everything you do. Where then you get to the whole co-op aspect, where when you go to the next room, it's a vote system. So there are 3 doors, and everyone goes to the door where they want to go to next. And depending on what door you pick, that can be, oh, hey, I want a new ability, or I want to upgrade abilities, or I want to heal. So it becomes, again, this push and pull of what this would feel better if you're playing as a team, but if you're going at it with randos, not so much. And it feels kind of bad when you're a new player and you're reading all the text of, okay, what ability, what do I want now? What passive do I want now? And trying to figure out what you want to do. You kind of feel like you're holding up the rest of the team, especially when everyone's done and they're on to the next door. Where
sorry, Jaren. I know you said that this is a co-op game, but is it forced co-op? You can't.
No, you can go solo.
Oh, okay.
But I feel like this game doesn't balance when you're solo, where I played this for around 2 hours. The only time I've completed a run was when we had all 4 people locked in, and everything else, like my solo games, like my runs only made it to like round 10. The rest of my co-op games, the moment people die, they just quit out. So again, it's becoming one of those, hey, if you have a good group that knows what they're doing, that might be the better experience. But maybe with randos, not so much. And going back to the abilities real quick, some of the abilities are passives. Also, don't like how if you pick up one of the passives, that takes one of your active slots, where you only have 4 slots. You have your right mouse button, your left mouse button, Q and E. And the fact that if you pick a character-specific passive and that goes onto your active bar and it doesn't do anything, doesn't feel great. I mainly played as the range character, and I feel like when you play her, you need to use mouse and keyboard, since essentially her shoot is assigned by default to right mouse click or left mouse click. But if you're on a controller, that defaults to X, and I don't think you can change it. So you can't do a dual joystick with her just because you have to be pressing on X to actually shoot. So again, that doesn't feel great as well. Where, like, I hate to do this, but it's hard to compare games in this genre to Hades, and because Hades is literally the bar. And I will say that you're right now in Starlight Revolver, your character does feel clunky. You're committing to actives, the co-op aspect. I don't know. It's a bit. It's not balanced for single player in my opinion right now. No dodge canceling, and yeah, again, I feel like there's also no good way to self-sustain. So maybe one of the other characters... There are only 3 characters available. There is a 4th, and maybe the 4th would be a healer type. So I don't know. I feel like this game really wants you to think of team composition and just how your abilities kind of interact with one another rather than by yourself. And my final note, boys, this is probably one of the worst fishing mini games that I've ever played. Not intuitive at all. And the tutorial right now literally tells you to follow the on-screen prompts, which there are no real on-screen prompts that you can really figure out what to do intuitively. So I don't know. I really wanted to like Starlight Revolver. I love the aesthetic. I love the visuals. I love the magical girl transformations. But at the same time, I think gameplay isn't there. And at the end of the day, it just made me want to go back to Hades too. So also, not a fan that there are exclusive craftable items and costumes that you need materials for. But it's only available during the duration of the Steam Next Fest because this is a limited time demo. So that kind of also put me off the game, if I had to be 100% honest. But yeah, that was Starlight Revolver. Needless to say, Rakush, are you checking this game out?
Probably not.
Fair enough. Matt, what is a demo that you checked out, however, that you felt a bit better on?
I mean, if we're gonna keep with this vibe, a demo that I was kind of really looking forward to and was a little bit disappointed by. Not because I think it's a bad game, but I think it's because it turns out not a game for me.
Right.
It is Unbeatable.
Oh, Matt. I'm scared because on paper, I think this should be a Jaren game, but
yeah,
why isn't it not necessarily a Matt game?
I just kind of am not vibing with it the way I thought I would.
Fair.
Is it because the game's beatable?
The game is actually quite hard. But
oh no.
Okay, so like for people who don't know, Unbeatable is like a very stylized rhythm game, and I think for me, I really love the kind of visuals that are going on. I really love the vibes in general of the game. The gameplay itself is, for the most part, there for me. It is basically just Muse Dash style note charts,
right,
where you have like the up down and kind of just some stuff in between that it kind of plays with. And on the kind of gameplay side, I think it works pretty well, but I think for me the music in this game is not hitting. And
okay,
I think that's like a very important part of a rhythm game. And also for me, the story in this game is very much not for me. It is a lot of at least from what they showed in the demo, is a lot of teenage drama on the main character side. I really, really like the kind of I don't want to say they're antagonists. Actually, I guess they are antagonists. There's these antagonists have a very Jesse and James from Team Rocket vibe to them, which I'm really, really into. But I don't like any of the main characters, and I think this game is trying to be a bit more deep than I would like it to be. But yeah, I think I'm quite sad that this game didn't turn out to be for me. But I do think that this is a good package. It is just, yeah, like I said, not for me.
Okay, so not necessarily a Matt game, but from what you've been saying, Matt, there are traces of Jaren and Julian game in this, so I think Unbeatable might be something still on my radar.
Yeah, I think like the rhythm game aspect of it is like very, very strong. It is like very fun to play. The way they kind of do the variations in how they're playing with the note chart is pretty, I think, like pretty good. And like overall, like, yeah, as a rhythm game, this is very good, I think.
Fair. I'll go into another demo I checked out real quick. That also has some real Muse Dash energy, but I'll be honest, boys. If this was a movie, I don't think Rakush would be sitting in on this. And I'm talking about Momo Crash. Because, boys, this has really high Flash game energy where I respect how the devs literally put on the store page, Momo Crash was born from a creator's simple desire. And I quote, I want to draw cute girls. And boys, I respect that.
Oh, okay.
Just looked it up. Where you are right. I would not watch this in theaters.
Oh, man.
Where Momo Crash is a casual 2-button rhythm game where essentially you fling and crush notes with your thighs. And Matt, when you said Unbeatable wasn't really music for you, I'll be honest. From the 3 songs that are available in the Momo Crash demo, I don't think this is kind of gearing towards my personal tastes because the 3 songs available were essentially EDM versions of classical music where you had it. you had an EDM version of William Tell, of Fate Symphony, and of Pop and Circumstance, where
Oh man.
voice not necessarily for me,
Oh
not
man.
necessarily for me, but might be for you.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
So, Jaren, you're
Oh,
saying
man.
the game is basically about how thick thighs save lives.
Kinda save lives, and I do like how the hold note is essentially you trying to put your thighs together so a cat can jump onto them, and then you can pet the cat, which I think is fun. Where it is a 2-button rhythm game, but there's no remap yet from what I saw. Where honestly, I was playing on the controller, and I think having the active buttons be A and B is a choice.
Ooh.
Where for more harder difficulties, it does feel like strenuous, where you would want at least one of the face buttons and one of the direction buttons to be your note hits or actual keyboard support, which the devs have said they're working towards. But yeah, Momo Crash, if you're looking for a degen rhythm game with flash game aesthetics and EDM versions of classical music, maybe check it out, or maybe not if you're Rakush.
Actually, Jaren,
But-
sorry.
What's up?
Before we get too far away from degen rhythm games,
Yes.
did you ever end up playing Beat Reflect or Beat Reflect or whatever it's called?
No.
Oh,
Should I?
okay. I mean, maybe, I don't know. It is a rhythm game where I don't know. I feel like Momo Crash and Beat Reflect should be related, and if they're not like suggested in their like games like this sections, I'm gonna lose it.
I'm looking at Beat Roughly now. Similar to games you've played, Muse Dash. I'll add this to my wish list and hope no one looks at it.
For people who
But-
don't want to look it up, it is a rhythm game where you're kind of you're doing a massage. You're massaging anime girls to a rhythm game.
And this is where my
Okay.
friend Saucy stops listening.
Fair enough. But Matt, what else have you checked out?
I mean, I think for me, other than my card is better than your card, my big game of the show is
Yes.
Ball X Pit.
Oh, Matt.
Mhm.
When I saw the Devolver logo when I booted this boy up,
Ooh,
I felt
yes.
good. I felt
Yes.
good.
I didn't realize it, when I downloaded the demo, but when I saw that logo, I knew it was in for a treat. And
Okay.
man, this is hitting on the exact same cylinders for me that I think Vampire Survivors hit for me.
Yes.
As you guys are mentioning these games, I'm also watching some things on the side, and literally it goes into like the upgrade thing, and my first thought was Vampire Survivors, as you said that it reminds you of Vampire Survivors.
Yes,
I mean, it is pretty Vampire Survivors coded, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Seems like
Mhm.
pinball Vampire Survivors?
Yeah, it's more a Atari Breakout Vampire
yes.
Survivors. I mean, basically, you have your upgrade system where you're getting special balls, whether it's, stuff like, hey, this ball lights things on fire, this ball makes earthquakes, this ball passes through the enemies, so, it doesn't bounce unless it hits the walls. And, this ball spawns more small balls, and then you get kind of passive items that does stuff like, if your ball hits something from the front, it does something, or does more damage, or this allows all your balls to pass through the enemies, which, y'all, that's a bad one. That's a trap. Don't take it. And, these, what do you call it? These balls, not balls, these things that you're fighting are kind of almost like, I want to say Space Invaders, like monsters.
Yes.
In terms of how they move, where they start at the top of the screen and then they slowly, march or like move down towards you, and if they hit the bottom of your, I guess, like play area, they do damage to you, and if you take too much damage, you die. The kind of usual thing. It does have a outside of the game kind of long-term progression where you're building a very small town area where you can send villagers to harvest things or visit buildings, and then that generates outside of main game resources that you can do long-term upgrades with. And I don't know, like the fact that there is no part for different from Atari Breakout, where in that game, you have to really focus on keeping the ball in play, like very
Yeah.
Pong-esque, where, the ball goes up, it comes down, you have to make sure that your paddle's hitting it. In this, there is no empty floor at the bottom. It's just another wall, and then when the balls hit that, they just return to you, and you can shoot them out with your cursor. You do have the choice of making it so that the balls only fly out when you hit your left mouse button, but I turned that stuff onto automatic because I'm a lazy boy, and
Yep,
I don't
same.
know. It makes it very Vampire Survivory to me, and I don't think that it's a huge disadvantage in terms of what's happening in this game. But I don't know. This game has a lot of build synergy when you have your magic balls. They are able to kind of fuse together to make combine their properties, and I think a thing in this game compared to Vampire Survivors that I really really like about its item system, I guess, is that in this type of, I guess, like survivor type games, there are specific fusions that you can do where like you have item A and you have item B, and these specifically always become item C. In this game, it seems like, I guess, like on the back end, I'd say item A has property A, and then item B has property B, and they combine to become a ball with properties A and B. For example, if like ball A was the ball that sets things on fire, and then property or ball B was a ball that spawns balls, you can combine those to make a ball that spawns fireballs. And it's not necessarily like a fixed ball that exists. You're able to kind of fuse them depending on, I guess, like how it's really coded in the back end, which I actually really really like, and it lets you make like a lot of interesting abilities in the long run.
Right. And yeah, I don't know. I think I didn't play as much as you did, Matt, but it really leaves a good first impression. I do
Mhm.
like the overall look of the game, the overall style. It has that kind of gritty, more medieval, look, but under the
Mhm.
Devolver lens, or at least the Devolver umbrella, which of course makes sense. And I do like how the enemy movements and their grunts when they're kind of coming towards you are
Uh-huh.
kind of synced to the music. So I think just overall as a package, between the visuals, the sound presentation, and just the overall gameplay, yeah, ball pit, ball cross pit, ball X pit really
Mhm.
leaves a good first impression that I'm really looking forward to the final version.
Mhm. Same.
Question for you guys.
Mhm.
I mean, we're comparing it to Vampire Survivors. One of the big selling points for Vampire Survivors, I think, for me and for a couple of friends of mine who play the game, is the game breaking abilities that you can potentially unlock. Have you
Mhm.
experienced any of that with this game? Because I feel like one of the things about Vampire Survivors that I absolutely love seeing online was how people just basically kept the game running infinitely because of like the build that they would go with, and like death can't like kill you or anything like that. So is there stuff like that in this game, or is it just more so like the upgrade mechanics or the upgrade system is where it's Vampire Survivor-esque?
I think for me personally, it's hard to say, especially with only like a few hours of play, because to be honest, that point you're talking about, Rakush, at least for me personally, when it comes to Vampire Survivors, doesn't happen until you're a couple, like, what was it, 40, 50 hours in, for me personally.
Interesting.
It's when you unlock all those items, especially all the synergies, all the combinations where I don't know. With here, for me. It was such a small glimpse of the game that I can't tell you when you get to that point. I'm not sure if Matt, you saw anything different.
I think that this game has potential to go there. Kind of like you, I don't know for sure, but I was able to make some particularly kind of like strong combinations with its, I guess, kind of aspect fusing system without the specific fused balls. I guess, to make some very interesting builds that I thought played very well, and kind of due to the fact that you can fuse whatever you want with whatever you want, it lends itself a lot of replayability and a lot of, I guess, space for you to find kind of broken ass builds.
Mm-hmm. Fair. Yeah.
But
Mhm.
yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I can't play,
Yeah.
guys. My Vampire Survivor. I have all the DLC. So many updates have come out since I last played, but ever since I broke it with like that worm character and that has like a billion eggs right now, I can't. I have to turn eggs off if I ever wanna at least attempt to play this game normally.
Yeah.
But any other demos, Matt, that caught your attention?
Yes. I got some quick ones that I do want to hit. First off, I want to hit Bits and Bops. If you guys like Rhythm Heaven, Bits and Bops is Rhythm Heaven.
Nice.
If you guys like Dead Zone Rogue, Abyssus is what you should go for. It is a Dead Zone Rogue, but it has a water theme instead of a space theme, and while I think that the gunplay in Dead Zone is better, I think that the kind of upgrade system and kind of theming are a lot better in Abyssus.
Okay.
If you guys, Jaren, I think you might like this one, the Royal Writ. This is a Balatro, sort of.
Speak my language, Matt.
It is a kind of tactical card game where you're playing cards that move across a grid and they kind of like, do damage, but it's following Balatro's kind of, these cards are your, I guess, base cards, and then these cards are your multiplier cards type of system. And yeah, you're just trying to hit a certain life point total of whatever your enemy is, or whatever enemies you're fighting is.
Oh, this looks fun.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I think like the art style in this one actually is like pretty nice as well.
Yeah, I like it.
Yes. Another one to play that if you guys have friends, Jump Ship. Jump Ship is a kind of Wings of Icarus type game. You're kind of manning a spaceship. You have that kind of standard, I guess, in this type of game where you have someone piloting, you have someone shooting weapons, you have someone kind of dealing with the stuff that's happening on the ship kind of game, and then you can kind of go off and do, I guess, exploration on the world itself. I think this game actually handles very, very well. I love flying around in this game. I love games that do zero gravity movement like very nicely, and this game I think really, really hits that. And
Okay.
I think last for my quick hits, I want to hit Absolum. I think this is the first time I've ever seen a proper roguelike beat 'em up. I don't think I've actually played a proper beat 'em up in like a while. I guess like actually no, not like a while. I guess like the most recent one was like the Ninja Turtle games that came out I think maybe a year or two ago. But this is this is a very competent roguelike. The art is phenomenal in this game. I think my only complaint in this game is that I don't like how narrow the hits are.
Oh, okay.
I think like
do you have to be like really up close?
It's not that you have to be really up close. I think this is a thing that like I really don't like when I have this issue in beat 'em ups specifically. Is beat 'em ups have the kind of, it is still 2D, but you're existing in an almost 3D plane, and sometimes even if you're above or like I guess like moved upwards, you can still hit an enemy who's slightly downwards from you. I think that the kind of distance where you can hit someone below or above you in this game is a bit more narrow than I would like, and I think that's like my big complaint, because I whiff a lot of stuff with that I guess narrowness of your hitboxes.
Fair. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, real quick, just to go through two more demos that I played during the game.
Mm-hmm.
This was the game I wanted to talk about after Acts of Blood, but I did play the Dead as Disco demo. This is another counter-based free form combat game. It's a arena, at least in the main mode of the demo. It's an arena combat game where you're fighting alongside the music, where enemy attacks and your own attacks kind of chain together and are on beat with the music that's playing. Where I like how for the button prompts, while you can hit them as soon as they appear, in true rhythm game fashion, you do have a beat circle that closes in on them, where if you press the prompt in line with the beat circle, you'll do maximum damage, you get maximum points, where it is a score-based game where you're graded on how well you're able to kind of keep your combo chain going, how you're able to stay on beat, and there is a story mode, and you get to play at least the first bit of the first chapter where you play as Charlie Disco, he essentially looks like Travis Touchdown, where you're a dead idol who has to go fight, I believe, 7 other deadly idols to discover the truth behind your death. And of course, you do have a song importer, which I don't know, boys. The MP3s I had on my PC didn't really flow that well, where this seems to be a game that will be tailored better towards the in-game soundtrack, which thankfully has a really nice variety in the demo, different genres at play that when they actually are on beat, when you're in that combat flow state, really looks cool. But I don't know, maybe it's just me where with games that have a song importer and are supposed to react to the beat, I believe the game was Beat Hazard, that shoot 'em up where you could import MP3s. I feel like the integration where the game reacts to the music just never feels great to me. But overall, Dead as Disco, great blend of a rhythm game and a brawler. Really like the aesthetic and overall style. I don't like fighting the ranged enemies, the ones that kind of shoot projectiles at you. I feel like for a game that's all about being in the zone, dealing with ranged enemies kind of breaks the flow for me. Plus, if you
Mm.
do get hit, that does notable damage, and I hope they balance that quite a bit. But overall, love Dead as Disco, really good impression. And finally, for me, boys, I played Lost and Found Co., which is a cozy hidden object game. You play as Ducky, and their goddess turned into a mascot dragon boss who has to help the town search for things. And I don't know, it's another charming game where pretty much everything in the environment can be clicked on, and they have like a funny little animation or interaction with them. And I do appreciate how some of the objects you need to find or secondary objectives you need to do need some sort of interaction between certain environment objects where I do hope later on in the game these puzzles get a bit more elaborate, at least for the higher difficulty maps and like the associated secondary challenges. But yeah, I think with the hidden objects genre, I always wondered how much mileage I could get out of a game like this, but I think realistically, these are just extensions of the I Spy books I read growing up, where, again, great visuals, great music that you can just vibe with. I do like how there's little supernatural elements too. For example, you might find a object that's glitching out or has, an off color compared to everything else in this bright environment, where if you click it, they end up being like what they call as a juju, or they're essentially yokai, which you capture and then they give you additional hints for some of the primary objects that you're looking for. Where, in terms of making a hidden object game have longer legs, since this environment is just filled with things you can click on, I wonder if you could like generate daily challenges based off of, hey, here are 5 random items in this map, go find them. But yeah, for this is the first time I played a hidden objects game, left a really good impression. So if you're just looking for something cozy and to click around a screen, check out Lost and Found Co.
Okay, so I saw this game as well, and I wanted to give it a try,
Yep.
but I I was wondering, is this the difficulty in finding the objects? Is it more on the difficulty of I Spy, or is it more on the difficulty of Where's Waldo?
Which one is which
Um,
part, by the way? Like, which one is more difficult to you?
I Oh, you know what? Actually, there are some I Spy. Okay, I considered Where's Waldo the harder one, but I know that in some of the I Spy books, some of those are tricky.
I'll be honest. So if you hover over your primary item that you're looking for, you'll get a hint. And I
Okay.
think the hints are pretty generous where when I actually found like if you read a hint, you'll immediately get it. But it's one of those hidden object
Hmm.
games where the hints are kind of play on words as well. Where when you finally see the object, you'll think, fuck, how did I miss that? It's like right there. So I
I
think it's
see.
a fair difficulty that goes alongside the coziness of the game. But again, um, some of the yokai hints, for example, are straight up, hey, you might have to interact with something for this object. So keep kind of that's where the difficulty lies.
The art style looks very similar, like Habbo Hotel and stuff like that. Is that
Yeah,
accurate?
let's say,
Oh
yeah,
god.
kind of, but I think, yeah, less racist, I guess, if
Yes,
we're being
yeah,
real. But
yeah.
but yeah, Lost and Found Co. Check it out if you're looking for some hidden object games. But personally, Matt, that's all I played the Steam Next Fest. Do you have any other games you want to go through?
No. I think the other games that I played, I didn't really enjoy as much. So I
Okay.
think I'm good. Those ones that I mentioned, I think, are my big hits for this next fest.
Okay, maybe next week. Rakush, just based on everything you heard, anything that stood out to you that you might check out if it or is on your radar?
I think Bollock's Pit, especially if it's like ends up being a mobile game as well, I think it could be a really fun time sink, like, while being on the crapper. I I see a lot of potential with that game. I'm sure it's not going to cost 79 cents like Vampire Survivors did, so that's maybe like the only holdup, but it seems like the most promising.
Fair. Cool. But yeah, boy, Matt, would you say this was another successful Steam Next Fest?
Yeah, I think this was actually a very strong Steam Next Fest, and I think every Steam Next Fest, the Steam Next Fest just gets bigger and bigger.
Yeah. Lot of demos, Matt. A lot of demos, Rakush, but
Hmm.
hopefully we're able to, explore some that, again, these are demos and really hope that, the devs are able to continue to build on what we currently saw, or at least just we got a taste of. But, boys, we're cutting it close to the end of the episode, but, there's one more thing left on this episode of The Mistake Zone. So, Matt, I know
Hmm.
I ask you to take it away when we're signing out, but please, what challenge do you have for us this week?
All right. As always, at the end of every episode, we have the Don't Match Me challenge. And as always, the rules for this are that I, the question asker, am going to ask you, the listener, along with my co hosts, 5 questions, and I'm going to give 5 answers. The goal for you, the player, is to provide an answer that does not match my answer. And if that sounds a little bit too easy for you, you can make it a little more difficult by not only not trying to match me, but you can also try to not match my co host's answers. And remember, this is a podcast, so if you need some time to think, just hit that pause button, Google up an answer, and then hit that play button, because, we're always going to be on the other side of that play button. You guys, my big demo of Steam Next Fest, like I said earlier, was Ball X Pit. And now that I'm looking at it, maybe it is just like Ball Pit. I feel like that also makes a lot of sense. But in honor of Ball Pit, my my theme for my Don't Match Me, of course, is balls. So here is my balls don't match me. My first question, a very general question, is name any type of ball that is inflatable. So any type of inflatable ball. You stick that pump into it and you pump it up. I think that'll count.
Okay. I think I'm good.
Mm-hmm. All right. So in 3, 2, 1, I went with the volleyball. I when I was writing this, I had just recently watched a Haikyuu compilation, so that was on my mind.
Fair,
A
fair.
fantastic series.
Jaren, what'd you go with?
I gotta figure out what next media I have to watch for that because I forget which season we ended off of, and I couldn't tell if I'm supposed to jump into season 4 or watch some movie. But
Mm-hmm.
not to
Mm-hmm.
answer your question, I went with an exercise ball.
Oh,
That's
a
a
good
good
one.
one.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Rakush, how about you?
Before I answer, Jaren, the answer to what season I left off on is just restart from season 1.
It's a good season. It's a good series.
It's a great series. I went with an American football.
Ooh, that's a good ball. That's a good ball. That's a good ball.
Yeah, it's
Hey Arnold.
yeah.
All right. So going on to question 2, I feel like this is a very obvious one to have in here. There is that big old genre of Pokemon, and in Pokemon, you gotta catch those Pokemon inside of a ball.
Mm.
And across all the games, they've kind of been adding different types of Pokeball. So I want you to just name any type of Pokeball in the Pokemon series. So name that ball in 3, 2, 1. I'm going with my I think favorite type of ball to use, the quick ball.
Ooh, good ball.
Good ball, good ball, good ball. Jaren, what'd you go with?
Guys, I record with you every week. So, in honor of our friendship, I went with the friend ball.
Ooh. I thought you were going to say the repeat ball.
Now, friendship, I want to capture our friendship in a Pokeball and give it to Bill in his PC.
Rakush, what'd you go with?
I went with the most overhyped of the balls, the Premier Ball.
I like the Premier Ball.
It's pointless. Like, it's basically a Pokeball.
I like the look.
I don't know if I do. Honestly, I don't know if I do.
I I don't know. I always get excited when I buy 10 Pokeballs and I get one for free. But going on to my question 3, you guys, I think, looking at where we are now, this didn't pan out the way I think this company wanted it to. But I am talking about the company that wanted to be the ice cream of the future. I'm talking about Dippin' Dots. And I want you guys to name any official Dippin' Dots flavor.
Oh, God. Okay. Do you guys still eat Dippin' Dots? Like, there's a vending machine at the theater nearby me, and I've always tempted to get one, but I don't know.
Oh, man. I am always tempted whenever I see Dippin' Dots. I think I very rarely go for the Dippin' Dots, though.
Unrelated ice cream thing. DQ is doing a Superman cake batter cookie dough blizzard right now. Had one yesterday. I actually recommend it. It's phenomenal.
I mean, those are good flavors. Those are good. Okay. Actually, I'm surprised that none of those flavors are inherently blue or red.
The color of the ice cream is blue, though. So, yeah.
All right. So name that Dippin' Dots flavor in 3, 2, 1. I'm going with the first Dippin' Dots flavor I ever had, which was cotton candy.
Oh, reliable.
Good flavor.
Yeah.
Good flavor.
Jaren, what'd you go with?
Mina, hi. The chocolate.
What just happened?
Oh man, it's Jaren's dumb TikTok. Oh man, Rakush, what'd you go with?
I love you guys.
I went with the ugliest looking one. I went with mint chocolate. Like, that's a very unappetizing looking ice cream.
No.
You didn't do the thing, Rakush. I did the thing, so you have to do the thing too if you send mint chocolate.
I don't know what this thing is. I'm sorry. I will research it next time.
This is the second time we went through it on the mistake zone. Not please save us.
Oh man. Okay, let's just go on to the next question. Oh man. Okay. So guys, for this next question, there is a company that we all know about that you may or may not know branched off in 1994 till 1999 for a bit. My fourth question is, name any pinball machine made by the Sega Pinball Incorporated company.
Oh, that's a very specific one. Interesting. Sega Pinball Company?
Yeah, Sega Pinball Inc. They made a a decent 2 handfuls of pinball tables. I just want you to name one of the themes for one of the properties for a pinball machine made by Sega Pinball Inc.
There is a Wikipedia page for all our friends listening out there.
Looking one up right now. Okay, I have an answer.
Maybe. So, name that pinball machine in 3, 2, 1. I'm going with the kind of a property that I watched the most recently. I'm going with Starship Troopers.
Interesting.
Ooh.
Interesting.
Good answer.
Jaren, what'd you go with?
I went with my favorite Sega property, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein.
Oh man, I was looking at that one too.
Okay.
Good property. Rakush, how about you?
Surprisingly not matching. I'm going with the Space Jam pinball machine.
Ooh. I thought Godzilla would have been more your style.
I was looking at that too, but I feel like the Space Jam one, it's speaking to me.
So guys, Sega Pinball was succeeded by Stern Pinball Machines, which is a big player in the pinball world, from what I understand. And Full
Ooh.
Circle, they released a John Wick machine in 2024.
Oh, nice. Nice.
Interesting.
All right. So, last question for my Don't Match Me. I was kind of curious. I was doing some Googling around for what questions I should do. And I ended up finding out that snooker uses the most balls simultaneously of any, I guess, like formalized sport.
Oh, damn.
So, which is for anyone wondering, it's 22 balls at maximum. What I want you to do is name the color of any snooker ball. There's a couple colors that it can be. You just gotta name any color of a ball in snooker.
Now, just to clarify, do you mean billiards or snooker? Because there's different colors for those two.
Snooker specifically.
Okay, so that would be 8 choices for anyone playing along.
Actually, okay. Do you guys say snooker as snooker?
Yeah.
Okay. Cause like when I was like kind of watching, I guess like some stuff about snooker. One of the other pronunciations I was hearing very commonly was snooker.
Snooker?
And I was wondering if I just say it weird.
Is that British?
I don't know. Maybe the person who was saying this didn't have like a specifically British accent when they
Fair.
were saying it.
I feel like it's a regional thing, to be honest.
So name that snooker ball color in 3, 2, 1. I'm going with yellow.
Or yeah, that's a classic.
Ooh.
It's a classic. Jaren, what'd you go with?
Matt, I went with the second flavor that I went with strawberry, aka pink.
That tracks. Rakush, how about you?
I'm going with the ugliest one again. I'm gonna go with green. Also because it's very tough to see it on the actual billiard table.
Yeah,
Fair.
Yeah, that tracks. But yeah, that was my balls-based Don't Match Me challenge.
You have some balls making that one, bro.
Good challenge, Matt. Good challenge. And boys, good medium-sized episode of the Mistake Zone this week. I want to thank all our friends out there for joining us and putting up with our shenanigans. As always, I want to thank my best friend in the whole wide world, Matt Alba, for joining me this week and, of course, editing this podcast and bringing us that ballsy Don't Mash Me challenge.
Yo, thanks, man. It's always Jaren. I want to thank you for hosting and, jamming on some of these demos for the Steam Next Fest with me.
Heck yes. Also want to thank our boy Rakush for joining us this week and going to the movies to tell us about some ballerinas.
I want to live in a village full of assassins. That sounds nice.
That sounds questionable, actually.
Yep.
Well, no one's trying to kill each other. You're just a village full of assassins.
Boys, are you going to watch that Keanu Guardian Angel movie?
I don't think so. That one looks kind of bad.
Fair.
Oh, no.
Fair. Want to thank ZZZ for giving me some good pulls. Don't want to thank ZZZ for the characters that are coming out real soon. I want to thank Hank Hill, Bob, and Cleveland for being the latest guest characters in Fortnite. Happy Father's Day. Who else do we want to thank? Boys, I want to thank Eve from Solar Blade, who's collabing with Nikkei this week. Good luck on your pulls. And that's it for now. So Matt, please.
And by pulls, he means like character pulls, not, the Gooner pull.
Balls. Yeah,
Matt?
balls. We got 'em, balls.
Take it away.
This has been the Mistake Zone, and we're all out of filled seats for anime movies. Well.